What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and I'm back at it again to bring you 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. This time, we'll be giving a lore that's more sinister and chaotic than any we've done before. Well, maybe except Horus. This is the lore on Fabius Bile, the infamous mad scientist that specializes in genetic manipulation and the creation of the vile, enhanced warriors. So let's find out what all that means in this lore starting now. By the end of the Great Crusade, Fabius Bile had risen to chief apothecary of the Emperor's children, and he was known for his reclusive and inquisitive nature. As the heresy and betrayal of the Emperor's children loomed, Fabius managed to convince Fulgrim that he could improve upon the Legion's gene seed and finalize their quest for perfection. To this end, Fabius began experimenting on both Emperor's children and Blood Angels, wounded or slain in the war on murder. This began Fabius's descent into corruption and madness, as his experiments became ever more extreme and vile. Once the heresy began and the Imperium became divided, Fabius Bile was held in high esteem by both Horus and Erebus for his skills in genetic research. Omegon was told by Horus to give Bile the stolen data from the Primarch project. However, the data Omegon gave Bile was purposefully flawed, so that the traitors would waste manpower and resources, while it would be impossible to gain any benefit from it. Later, Bile joined several Emperor's Children commanders, such as Lucius and Marius Viroshan, in using extreme torture to exorcise the demon that was inhabiting Fulgrim. At his Primarch's demand, Ferrus produced his first cloned Primarch, creating a replica of Ferrus Manus, which Fulgrim tried again to convert to his cause, and ended up killing him after he refused. Bile created multiple clones of Ferrus, all refusing Fulgrim before being killed. Fabius proved vital for the Emperor's children during the heresy, reviving both Eidolon and Lucius at the demand of their Primarch. As the war ground on his experiments became more and more depraved, torturing captive Space Marines, both allied and enemy legions, to give birth to his first generation of Terra. The Terra were also known as the Enhanced Warriors, that are subjects who either willingly or unwillingly underwent extensive genetic manipulation at the hands of Bile. Fabius began development of these warriors in his position of chief apothecary during the Horus heresy. Twisted in body and mind, these enhanced warriors exhibit strength and reactions many times greater than standard humans, and they can surpass even Space Marines. Bile considers his enhanced warriors to be his proudest achievement, and an artistic achievement at that, calling them a new man. The unsuccessful experiments, however, turn into raving beasts, and even the successfully transformed enhanced warriors are not prone to fits of instability. During the end of the heresy, Fabius Bile took part in his legion's attack on Terra, although neither he or his legion were actually involved in the siege of the Imperial Palace. Instead, they attacked the general population. In the legion's unrestrained fervor, millions of Earth civilians were murdered. Bile used this opportunity to perform horrific experiments on captives. Human victims were rendered down to create special drugs, which heightened the legionnaires' feeling of ecstasy. It is possible that Earth served as the first example of Fabius Bile's subsequent Atrocities experiments on entire planetary populations. Bile left Terra before the death of Horus, along with a retinue of altered followers. Now he is a renegade, even to his own legion. Unlike the rest of the Emperor's children, Bile does not follow Slanesh. Instead, he devotes himself to science and research into the creation of Space Marines. While Bile was still chief apothecary of the Emperor's children, he began to secretly experiment into ways of altering the gene seed at the instructions of his Primarch, Fulgrim, with the intention of further perfecting the Legion. These experiments led to the first examples of Noise Marines, among other things. Yet, for all his twisted genius, Bile could not hold back the furious crusade of loyalists that launched outward from the ravaged Terra. Retribution finally caught him in the Arden system, where he was supporting the excesses of the renegade lord Tyrell in exchange for faux metal material. The Adeptus Astartes launched themselves down upon the corrupted world of Arden 6. Bile's flesh refineries and cloning vats all burned in a single night, as the righteous fury of the Salamander's chapter incinerated all evidence of the progenitor's precious experiments. Bile brought low a dozen space marines in the battle as his once brothers died agonizing and inventive deaths. Yet he barely escaped the battle. He was forced to flee for his life, and his ship was crippled by an Imperial Gothic-class cruiser as he fled to the dubious refugee of the warp. Either by accident or design, Bile's vessel was slowly being drawn into the Eye of Terror. There he drifted for an age, constantly experimenting on those few acolytes he had left, until the hand of some dark god guided his ship into the gravity well of a demon world. Once the planet had been one of scandalizing jewel worlds of the Eldar civilization, before their own debaucheries saw their civilization torn apart. Now it was a shriveled ruin, a crone world of seething madness that echoed to the screams of souls long dead. To Fabius Bile, it became his home. Bile continued on his work from before the heresy, attempting to unravel the secrets of gene seed and the Emperor's science in creating the Primarchs. To that end, Bile continued to clone Primarchs as he had Ferrus Manus earlier. After capturing Horus's body on Melium, Bile created the first true clone, but this confused creature was killed by Abaddon in the Battle of Harmony. During the same battle, it was revealed that Bile had attempted to clone all 20 Primarchs from samples he had gathered over the ages. The results, however, were a collection of adolescent monstrosities and deformed creatures, which were all subsequently wiped out by Abaddon and his forces. Annoyed, Bile stared at Abaddon, and he told him that he had set his work back considerably before retreating. In the centuries following the heresy, he traveled the galaxy offering his services to various planetary warlords or rebel leaders, in return for prisoners or ancient techno-libra. Many of these ambiguous overlords came to regret allowing Fabius experiments on their people, as the results of his atrocities became apparent. For a time, he was tutored in the dark arts of manipulating the flesh in the Tower of Flesh, a homunculi stronghold in the Coven of 13 Scars. This eventually led to him torturing his fellow Emperor's children in these dark arts, which led to Bile coming into conflict with the 13 Scars. The Coven slaughtered those who Bile tutored, and surgically ensured that Fabius himself could never speak of what he had learned. He was nearly caught by the Salamander chapter in the Arden system, and he has now set up base on one of the Eldar Crone worlds within the Eye of Terror. He has forged alliances with the various Chaos Space Marine legions, and promises to give them warriors to replenish their forces in return for protection. Fabius calls himself the Primogenitor, claiming that he has unlocked the secrets in the creation of the Primarchs and the Space Marines. This is possibly due in part to the Raven Guard's research on the Primarch genetic code, which was stolen by the Alpha Legion operatives. The pinnacle of his foul art is the New Man, creatures who possess strength and intelligence superior to any human, as well as the worst traits of mankind. As Fabius leaves behind planets of corrupted human abominations, the Adeptus Astartes and the Inquisition strive to purge these creations, and sometimes they are forced to destroy entire populations. And now we move on to the Wargear of Fabius Bile. The Chaos Artificer Power Armor. Fabius Bile's Chaos-tainted power armor contains multiple devices of his own invention, intended to fill his veins with powerful stimulants and painkillers that make him more effective in combat, and it also transforms all the pain that he feels into a form of pleasure in the best tradition of Slaanesh. The Chirudion. Possessed of a darkling sentience of its own, this complex part sorceress, part technological device is attached to Fabius Bile's spine and extends its spidery limbs over his shoulders. It pumps life-giving ichor around his body, charged with the immortal energy of the warp itself, resulting in variations on his strength and other abilities. It often gives him many of the immunities enjoyed by humankind, while boosting his physical abilities to superhuman levels. On the battlefield, he might also bestow the quantable gift of his enhancements to others, with uncertain results. Sometimes the experiment is a success, creating psychotic killers called superhumans, even in comparison to the corrupted Chaos Space Marine. But sometimes the subject's metabolism disintegrates in the face of stress, resulting in an agonizing death. This is a construction of Fabius' own invention, and he has perfected it over a long period of time to more intimately bond with his body, enabling him to perform surgery on himself with his own contraption. The Rod of Torment. This hell-forged rod is specifically crafted for close combat, and it was once a scepter of office belonging to the demon Primarch, Shalak, Marquis of Mutation. Reforged to Bile's own purposes, this rod amplifies the slightest touch into a raging maelstrom of agony. Though Fabius sees the device as somewhat blunt, it always raises a flicker to send a victim screaming for the release of death just by administering a rap on the knuckles. The Zylos Needler is a specially crafted weapon created so that Bile could test new genetically engineered serums in battlefield conditions. It fires a thin capillary tube imbued with Bile's latest creation. Even the smallest scratch can induce terrifying, psychotic premonitions of tortures yet to come, causing a living being to mutate uncontrollably, or even cause them to spontaneously combust. Oftentimes, Bile wears a floor-length coat of flayed human skin, taken from the bodies of those dead on Istvan 5. And with that, that is all the lore we have on Fabius Bile. Let me know what you guys think about this mad scientist. I, for one, would never want to be anywhere close to this guy. I think he's even more scary than the homunculi of the Dark Eldar. What do you guys think? Is he worse than the Dark Eldar? Or is he literally the worst of the worst? Yeah, I would not want to be in any of his experiments at all. Anyway, guys, please leave your suggestions in the comments below as to what you guys want to hear from next time. Don't forget to hit up our Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages for more 40k content from us. As always, I'm the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'm out of here.